Thanks for listening to the Red Treehouse, where I tell you scary stories to keep you up at night. You can listen to the Red Treehouse wherever you stream podcasts. Just be sure to follow, like, and subscribe. Oh, and leave a 5-star review. An important note, sources for this episode can be found in the show notes. The Red Treehouse is dedicated to my dad. I love you, Pop. Let's start with a Did You Know? My absolute favorite television show of all time is The X-Files. I remember sneak watching it when it first came out and becoming addicted later on once my parents gave me permission to watch it. And even now as an adult, I watch the entire series at least once a year. What I love most are the diversity of stories, and even those that are rooted in the natural world have a strange and creepy vibe. Today's story feels like it could have inspired an episode of The X-Files. In 1966, in a suburb outside of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, 2 men were found dead atop a hill. Investigators were dumbfounded as to what happened, especially because the crime scene didn't quite make sense. And perhaps the strangest detail of all, the 2 men were found laying side by side, wearing near identical clothing, and each wearing a lead mask over their eyes. In this episode of the Red Treehouse, we're going to explore the eerie and mysterious case of the lead masks. What happened to 2 men found dead on a hillside in a suburb outside Rio de Janeiro in 1966? I'll share the story. You decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Welcome to the Red Treehouse. On August 20th, 1966, a teenage boy was flying a kite on Vintim Hill in a suburb outside of Rio de Janeiro when he discovered the bodies of 2 men lying atop the hill. Horrified by what he saw, the boy immediately alerted authorities, who, despite their interest, had difficulty traversing the terrain and were unable to reach the location until the next day. What they discovered was both chilling and confusing. There atop the hill were the corpses of 2 men dressed in suits with waterproof coats layered on top. They were lying side by side, partially covered by the overgrown grass. And both men had their eyes covered with a lead mask. As authorities investigated the crime scene, they discovered the men had no visible injuries or signs of physical trauma. Their belongings were untouched, and cash remained in their wallets. At first, it was thought the men were wearing the lead masks to protect against radiation, though this was quickly ruled out based on the strange design. Protective masks covered the entire head, with the wearer either seeing through a pair of goggles placed over the top, or eye slits in the mask itself. But the masks worn by the 2 men were unlike anything seen before, because they functioned more like blindfolds, covering the eyes entirely while leaving the rest of the face and head exposed. And, while wearing them, the men would have been rendered blind because they would have been unable to see through the lead casing itself. The 2 men were quickly identified as Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana. Both were electronic technicians from the nearby town of Campos. Most resources seem to provide the same small list of items found at the crime scene, including an empty water bottle, 2 wet towels, and a small personal notebook. While digging around, though, I found one article that provided a more detailed list of items found at the scene. including, quote, improvised cups made of aluminum foil, a wedding ring tied to a reading glass inside Miguel's jacket, a wristwatch stored inside a pocket in Miguel's pants, a folded unused handkerchief with embroidered initials AMS, the receipt for the water bottle, matches and cigarettes inside Miguel's jacket, 2 unused bus tickets back to Campos, a square piece of cellophane paper impregnated with some substance, a newspaper from August 17th, a handwritten paper note with electronic equations, a handwritten paper note with letters and numbers in a kind of code, a handwritten paper note with written instructions found inside Miguel's pocket, a handwritten paper note with some medicine recipes, and a dirty paper note with the word bonsai, end quote. One of the handwritten notes caught the attention of investigators because it contained a mysterious and ominous message. 1630, be at the specified location. 1830, ingest capsules. After the full effect, protect metals. Await signal mask. Something interesting. The cryptic message seemed to imply the men had ingested some form of medication or drug, which should have led to the coroner running toxicology reports on the bodies. Except this didn't happen, and the reason is astounding. The coroner claimed to be overworked and overwhelmed at the time, and because the police did not suspect foul play, they didn't force the issue. So despite having a viable lead, they never pushed for answers. One article added, quote, the coroner's office was very busy at the time, and when the autopsy was finally conducted, the internal organs of the 2 victims were too badly decomposed for reliable testing. Because of this delay, testing for toxic substances was not carried out, end quote. Another article stated, quote, with no poison confirmed, no wounds present, and no environmental explanation, the cause of death was listed as unknown, end quote. Working quickly, investigators pieced together the days leading up to the discovery of their bodies, and the mystery only deepened. One question that comes to mind, and it seems an important one, is who were Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana? We know they were electronic technicians and that they were found dead atop Vintim Hill. But who were they in life? The 2 men were recognized as skilled technicians who, quote, repaired radios and televisions for a living, end quote. In fact, they were business partners who co-owned a repair shop in town. Both men were married, with 34-year-old Miguel married to Elsa Gomez Viana, and 32-year-old Manuel married to Nelly da Cruz. In all of my research, I could not find information on whether the men had children. Beyond their professions, the 2 men had, quote, a deep interest in spiritualism and believed that intense focus, electromagnetic energy, or certain rituals could lead to psychic contact or enlightenment, end quote. In the days following their death, close friends and acquaintances speculated the lead masks were meant to protect the men from bright lights, possibly due to some kind of supernatural phenomenon or extraterrestrial manifestation. As authorities dug deeper, it was discovered that the men may have been associated with a paranormal group or a scientific spiritualist collective whose primary interest was contacting spirits or extraterrestrials. And it was claimed the men had built some type of contraption to attempt contact, and that their trip to Vintim Hill may have been to test the device they'd built, with the lead masks intended to protect their eyes. Except, no device or contraption was found on or near the bodies of Miguel and Manuel. By all accounts, the 2 men hiked up Vintim Hill, laid in the grass, and died silently. And it seems that's where this story ends. Or does it? We'll dig a little deeper after this quick ad break.
Hi, I'm here to pick up my son Milo. There's no Milo here.
Who picked up my son from school?
Streaming only on Peacock.
I'm gonna need the name of everyone that could have a connection.
You don't understand. It was just the 5 of us.
So this was all planned.
What are you gonna do?
I will do whatever it takes to get my son back.
I honestly didn't see this coming. These nice people killing each other.
All Her Fault, a new series streaming now, only on Peacock.
To move forward, let's first look at the timeline a few days before and a few days after their bodies were discovered. On the evening of August 16th, Manuel woke up in the middle of the night and told his wife that he and Miguel were traveling the next day to Sao Paulo to purchase a used car, stating, quote, "Miguel and I need a car to better serve our customers. We're going to buy it in Sao Paulo," end quote. Prior to the trip, the two packed a significant amount of money, different sources quote different amounts, to purchase the car and other needed supplies. The next day, on August 17th, the men were taken to the bus station by a friend, but instead of traveling to Sao Paulo, they purchased tickets for the town of Niterói. Later that afternoon, they arrived in Niterói. It's raining, and they decided to purchase waterproof coats. Before that, though, they went to an electronics store where they chatted briefly with the owner, whom they had met several days before. They asked about certain electrical parts, but the shop didn't keep them in stock, so the men left and went to a plastics and rubber store to buy 2 raincoats for 9,400 cruzeiro apiece. While there, witnesses described the men as agitated, and investigators speculated that they may have encountered someone beforehand. After purchasing the raincoats, Miguel and Manuel went to a local bar near Vintim Hill. They purchased a bottle of water and were served by the bar owner's daughter. The men were described as moving quickly and in a bit of a hurry. But interestingly enough, they waited for a receipt, quote, "so that they can return the empty water bottle later and get a small refund," end quote. After this, the men left the bar and headed towards Vintim Hill, where upon reaching the base, they walked one of 8 different tracks to the hilltop. All of this happens in the short time frame of approximately 75 minutes. The terrain leading to the top of Vintim Hill was difficult, and likely even more so considering the rainy weather. Authorities speculated that it could have taken approximately 90 minutes for the men to hike up to where their bodies were later found. Later that evening, a woman, Gracinda Barboso Coutinho, and her 3 children were driving through the area around Vintim Hill when they noticed strange lights in the sky. She pulled over and watched for approximately 4 minutes and described it as, quote, "a bright oval orange object with a ring of fire, which emitted blue rays of light in many directions, moving up and down above Vintim Hill," end quote. She then went home and told her husband about the lights, but by the time he arrived at Vintim Hill, they were gone, and the two seemingly forgot all about it. The next morning, on August 18th, a young boy hunting small animals atop Vintim Hill sees 2 men lying on the ground. Unsure about what he saw, he ran to the nearby home of a police officer and told him what he saw. The officer unfortunately dismissed the young boy and chose not to follow up. 2 days later, on August 20th, the bodies of Miguel and Manuel are discovered. On August 22nd, Miguel's brother Herval Viana claimed the bodies of the 2 men. And on August 24th, they are buried at Caju Cemetery. When the case makes the news, Gracinda and her husband tell police about the strange lights above Vintim Hill a few days before. And something interesting, they weren't the only ones to report it. The police began receiving calls from others in the community. The next day, on August 25th, Police Chief José Venancio Bittencourt examines the lead masks found at the scene, and he immediately suffers an allergy attack as his body becomes covered with red spots. He immediately asks a second expert, Dr. Alberto Farah, to review the coroner's report. He is hopeful for a more specific cause of death. However, Dr. Farah confirms the original report, and the deaths are classified as unknown. As the mystery deepened, investigators delved into the lives of Miguel and Manuel, and upon searching their homes, discovered, quote, the tools necessary to make their homemade lead masks, and a book that contained highlighted passages about the intense luminosity of the entities they hoped to reach, end quote. A friend of theirs, Elcia Correa Gomez, tells investigators of an experiment the three conducted on Atafona Beach 3 months prior in May 1966. Sometime that night, around 9 p.m., a large explosion produces a huge fireball that lights up the sky and could be heard miles away. Nearby witnesses claim they could feel the ground shake beneath their feet. Something interesting. Local lore claimed the fireball was a flying saucer that went into the ocean, with at least one eyewitness stating they saw a ship in the distance. 1 second it was there, the next it was gone. A local police detective investigated the scene at the beach and was met with a strong stench of sulfur. He reported this to his superiors. It was also discovered that a month later, in June 1966, a homemade device of some kind exploded in Manuel's garden, scattering metal pipes and wires throughout the small space. On August 27th, Elcio is arrested and interrogated. He tells police, quote, I have always been friends with both of them. Elsa can testify to this. Miguel, her husband, was close to me. As for Manuel, we knew he was going through a hard time, not financially, but morally, and we tried to bring him back to the right path. As a believing kardecist, I tried to put him in touch with benevolent spirits, and it was with this intention that I took him to a few sessions at the Spiritism Center. That was all. When I said goodbye to them at the bus station, I was sure that they were going to Sao Paulo. From that day on, I know nothing more. End quote. But is that what really happened? We'll explore the different theories after a quick ad break.
'Tis the season for all your holiday favorites, like A Very Jonas Christmas Movie and Home Alone on Disney+.
Did I burn down the joint? I don't think so.
Then Hulu has National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
We're all in for a very big Christmas treat.
All of these and more streaming this holiday season. And right now, save big with our special Black Friday offer. Bundle Disney Plus and Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 1 year. Savings compared to current regular monthly price. Ends 12/1. Offer for ad-supported Disney Plus Hulu bundle only. Then $12.99 a month or then current regular monthly price. 18+ terms apply.
With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels. On everything from lamps to ceiling fans. Even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes. Now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox. Clean feels good.
Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
4 days later, on August 31st, Elcio is set free. And 2 days later, on September 2nd, he produced an alibi for his whereabouts on August 17th, a receipt from an auto store in Campos, some 400 kilometers away from where the two men died. As investigators dug further, Valdir Cardoso, a man who worked for Miguel and Manuel, claimed Elcio lied about the incident at the beach. According to him, Elcio invited the three of them to, quote, watch something supernatural at Atafona, but did not disclose many details in advance. He said Elcio went to the beach and the three men waited for 10 minutes. Then Elcio came back running, and they saw a huge red-purple light come down towards the water. End quote. He further claimed that Elcio was involved in spiritualism and could become possessed by spirits, and that Miguel and Manuel often came to him for counsel from the spiritual world. By now, investigators were knee-deep in conflicting information. They knew Miguel and Manuel were involved in something strange and unusual, and that it somehow led to their deaths. But how did they die? It's obvious this case isn't as open and shut as we would like. Both Miguel and Manuel moved secretly at times, and their connections to spiritualism only clouded the situation. So what theories exist to possibly explain their deaths? Initially, investigators believed the men died from radiation exposure, and that the lead masks didn't offer adequate protection. Except, the Engineering Institute of the Army examined the masks for radioactive material, and could not find any. Another theory suggested the men followed through on a suicide pact, and that the cryptic note implied that the men may have died of an intentional drug overdose. And while toxicology tests were not performed at the time of autopsy, this theory presented conflicting evidence and deeper questions. Why die by suicide? And why ask for a receipt to return the empty water bottle if you knew you were not coming back? One theory involves the supernatural and claims the men went atop Vintim Hill to contact extraterrestrials or spirits, and that the encounter led to their deaths. In some ways, this theory actually fits, because we know Miguel and Manuel were interested in and involved with spiritualism. Elcio and Cardoso verify at least this much. We also know many eyewitnesses claim to have seen a strange light in the sky on the night the men died. Is it possible the men died while trying to communicate with extraterrestrials and/or spirits, and unintentionally perished in their attempt? Perhaps the theory that has gained the most traction is that the men were victims of foul play. While investigating, authorities learned there were approximately 21 minutes of unaccounted time on August 17th. 21 minutes where the men were unaccounted for. There are some who believe the men stopped at a spiritism center close to Vintim Hill, and that while there, an unknown person learned they were carrying a large amount of money and subsequently set them up. Then, when the men reached the hilltop, they were robbed and tragically assassinated. Except, this theory doesn't quite fit the crime scene. The men were found in, quote, a precise and calm posture, end quote, as if they laid down voluntarily. There were no external signs of violence or distress. There were no signs of a struggle in the grass. There was no evidence that anyone other than Miguel and Manuel were atop the hill on August 17th. And perhaps shattering this theory entirely is that investigators learned of a wild, though admittedly unverified claim, that 4 years earlier, in 1962, a man named Hermes, who was also an electronic technician, was found dead on top of nearby Crucero Hill. And, lying next to his body, was a lead mask that was near identical to the ones worn by Miguel and Manuel. Something interesting and important though. Despite the compelling story, there is no evidence to support this claim, and it only came up after Miguel and Manuel were found dead in 1966. In the end, police concluded that the men died as the result of an experiment gone wrong, that their deaths were not intentional and likely an accident. Despite this, their deaths are still classified as unknown. The case remains mysterious, and today, nearly 60 years later, leaves us with far more questions than answers. As we close this episode of the Red Treehouse, we're left with these lingering questions. What really happened to Miguel and Manuel atop Vintim Hill in 1966? Is there a rational explanation for their deaths? Or something more sinister, even supernatural at play? I've shared the story. Now you decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Thanks for joining me in the Red Treehouse.